Hey, what's going on out there, everyone on YouTube? Ladies and gentlemen of the YouTube circuit, it's me, cr8zykuban0's, aka Gavalasawe. Haven't said that in a while. So I'm back again for a new video. I got hurt, but let's not talk about that. Well, I'm going to talk about a new video that I'm going to be making for you guys, and this is game recommendations. So I want to thank Chad Bailey for making this video possible. He actually made a video basically showing off some of the games in his collection that he recommends to other gamers, so hopefully they can check it out and they'll be able to play it and like it themselves. Some of these are kind of like the PS2 Xbox era. There's a few N64 games that I can recommend, so let's go ahead and get started and show off some of the stuff I can recommend to you guys, and hopefully you can find this pretty easily. Hopefully it won't be too much of a problem for you guys to find these games, since these games are definitely worth checking out. So let's go ahead and start the video. Alright, so for the first set of games I can recommend to you guys are actually all from the same company. Now, I know I've been getting a lot of questions from different collectors in terms to collecting games from this company. Now, I'm a really big fan of this company because they've made some great systems, a lot of great games, especially fighting games, but the problem is that the system that they released is very expensive to collect for, and a lot of people can't afford it. But luckily for us, this company made a lot of compilation games available for PS2, Xbox, Wii, which makes it a lot cheaper and a lot easier to pick up these games in case if you ever wanted to play the games for the system but you don't have the system just because it's too expensive. So I got quite a bit of games I can recommend for you guys, so hopefully this will help you out. If you've never played a Neo Geo game but if you've always wanted to check it out, this is the first game I would recommend to you guys, and that is SNK Arcade Classics Volume 1. This is also available on the PSP and PS2, but I have the Wii version. This game basically comes with 16 of some of the coolest games ever released on the Neo Geo. You got Metal Slug, King of Fighters, Samurai Showdown, you got Neo Turf Masters, you got Last Resort, a whole nice selection of games, 16 games in total. The also cool thing about it is that every time you complete a specific mission in the game, you're able to unlock art, like, you know, artwork, music, and so much more. So if you ever wanted to step into the Neo Geo world, this is the first game that I would highly recommend to pick up. So once you got yourself familiarized with some of the games, for example Metal Slug, which is a great franchise from SNK, there's an anthology set that you can definitely check out, which is Metal Slug Anthology. It comes with 7 games, which is definitely a really good bang for your buck. Has Metal Slug 1 through 5, even X, which is a remake of 2. The also cool thing about this game, it comes with Metal Slug 6, which was not available for the Neo Geo, but was actually available for the Samuel Thomas Wave. And the cool thing about this one, it has updated graphics, and you're able to play as some of the characters from King of Fighters like Leona, Ralph, and Clark. So definitely a great game to recommend. Metal Slug is a classic, so I would highly recommend picking that up. Another anthology set you can check out for the Nintendo Wii is the King of Fighters collection, a Rogi Saga. One of the greatest fighting series for the Neo Geo, in my opinion. It comes with the first 5 King of Fighters games, 94 through 98. 94 to 97 is part of the Orochi Saga, and then 98 is basically like a dream, kind of like a dream match. So that's the closest I can compare this game to, but very, very nice. You can unlock bonus content in this game, which is really cool. Highly recommend checking that out as well. Once you get yourself familiarized with the King of Fighters games, there's some games you can check out that was released later for the King of Fighters games, and one of these I got right here. It's a little bit pricey, but if you can find it for cheap, I highly recommend checking it out, and that is King of Fighters 2002 and 2003. These were the last 2 games that were made for the King of Fighters games for the Neo Geo. Some great games. I would highly recommend checking it out. And they had some more anthology sets for some of the fighting games. We got 2 that you can check out right here. We got World Heroes Anthology, and we got Art of Fighting Anthology. So the cool thing about these games is that in the main selection screen, you're able to kind of customize some of the characters. You're able to change the color of their clothing, and also it has this cool soundtrack mode, so where you can listen to the original soundtrack and the arranged soundtrack, which also was like a CD quality soundtrack, which is pretty cool. So if you want to check out some of the more awesome fighting games from the Neo Geo, or what the Neo Geo has to offer, I highly recommend checking out these 2. And this last game, if you guys have heard of SNK vs. Capcom, I'm pretty sure you guys have, awesome fighting game. This is basically SNK's version of that game, which is pretty cool. Not as good as the SNK vs. Capcom, but it's pretty good in my opinion, and that is SVC Chaos. This is one of the last games made for the Neo Geo. I think it's really cool, you know, different game modes you can play, nice selection of characters. I think the music's pretty good, the soundtrack, or the details on the graphics look really nice. So I highly recommend checking this out if you can pick it up for cheap. So the next 3 set of games I could recommend to you guys is a pretty cool little underrated series from Capcom. I don't really hear too much people talking about this series, which is kind of a shame because this is a pretty cool set of games that you can check out. And they're actually pretty cheap. I've seen these for like anywhere from $8 to $10. Not that expensive at all. And these are some really good medieval Japan adventure games. So let's go ahead and check them out. So the first one right here is actually an update of the one that I originally had, which was available for the PS2. This one's just a little bit of update that has a little bit of extra features, which is Genmo Nimusha. Basically in this game you have to save the Princess Yuki from the Demon Lord Nobunaga, traveling across 16th century medieval Japan, fighting enemies, killing demons, summoning up their souls to use to power up, and definitely an awesome adventure game. So I would recommend checking this one out. This is the Xbox version, which comes with a little bit of extra features, you know, new areas to explore, modified difficulty level, and the enemies are a lot harder in this game. So I would definitely check this one out over the Warlords version, which was the original one on the PS2. If you're looking for a little bit of a challenge, this is pretty cool. Has a little bit of an RPG element to it. When you actually kill the demons, some souls come out of their bodies that you can absorb with a little hatchet that you have on your arm. And what those souls do, depending on what color it is, you can use it to power up your weapon, power up some health, and also use it to power up your magic meter. And what your magic meter does, depending on what sword you have, you can use it to perform a special attack, which is very useful on the big enemies and bosses. So it's an adventure game with a little bit of a RPG element to it. The next game I can recommend right here is Onimusha 2, which is a sequel to the first one, except you're playing as a new character, which is Yagyu Jubei. And basically the story of this game, to keep it short and sweet, Nobunaga is back at it again. He attacks your village and you're the only survivor. You go back to your village, you find everything in ruin, and just like any person will do, he has to avenge his clan and go after Nobunaga to stop him once and for all. The cool thing about this game is that you're able to come across different characters along the way that play a part in the story, and you can play as them as well, and they can assist you a lot during the game. And they all have the same goal. They want to kill Nobunaga. And so you have some other characters that, you know, that will help you out through the game. Fantastic game. Just a great game in the series. I would recommend checking this one out as well. And with the third game they kind of made up a little twist, which is pretty cool, which is Obunaga 3 Demon Siege. And as far as the game style and gameplay, very similar to the first two, going back in time from modern day France to medieval Japan, solving clues, solving puzzles, killing enemies, powering up your weapons, and stuff like that. It's a really good game, and I highly recommend checking this one out. This is really cool. I like the fact that, you know, time traveling aspect, which is a pretty good part in my opinion. The only game out of the series that I haven't beaten yet, and the cool thing about this game that the other two didn't do, for the other two games, when you're in an area of a level, the camera seems to just stay at that specific angle. It won't move at all unless you move to a different part of the level. For this one, the camera follows you around, which makes it a little bit easier to move around and kill the enemies with. So I really like that aspect that they added to this game. So really recommend checking this one out. Alright, so the first Japanese game I can recommend for you guys for the Nintendo 64 is Retro Pro Wrestling 64, which is basically the Japanese version of WCW vs. NWO World Tour. So if you play that game, you'll be able to have no issues with this one. This is basically a little bit of a big upgrade to that one. A lot more characters, a lot more wrestlers to choose from, all basically mostly Japanese versions, but you also got the characters from WCW vs. NWO World Tour in this game, so we got a couple American wrestlers as well. Same aspect as World Tour, you know, you enter in different wrestling competitions, you got to win the gold belt, and for each time you win a gold belt, you can win a character. If you win a belt with a certain character, you can unlock other characters as well like that. Basically, in this game, the only kind of wrestlers you unlock are Japanese wrestling legends, like Antonio Inoki, you got Terry Funk you can unlock, Dory Funk, Andre the Giant, Giant Baba, a whole bunch of Japanese wrestling that made a name for themselves in the Japanese wrestling world you can unlock in this game. And the cool thing about this game, it has a referee. Whenever you're about to do a pin, it has a little animated referee, has post-score matches to see how well you did in the match, and also has a edit mode where you can actually edit your characters, which you couldn't do in World Tour. So this is a little bit of an improvement to World Tour as far as you can do different things, edit your characters, and a lot more wrestlers to choose from. Here's the last game that I can recommend to you guys. It's my personal favorite wrestling game of all time. Everything they did with this game, absolutely amazing. And this is Virtual Pro Wrestling 2, which essentially it is WrestleMania 2000 here in the States. Same engine, same music, same setup, all that. So like I said, if you've played WrestleMania 2000, if you're familiar with the game, then you should have no problem playing this. Now, this is basically All Japan game, All Japan license, which you have all the All Japan characters right over here. You got the Giant Baba, Mitsuhara, you got the Vader, and you also have a bunch of MMA wrestlers right over here, so MMA characters as well. Whole bunch of different Japanese companies represented in the game. And the way to unlock the Wrestling Legends in this game is a very similar setup to the previous game, where you have to go through different objectives or beat the game with this character to unlock this one, or this one to do this one, or vice versa. But there's also different ways of unlocking some characters, like you have to make a character bleed to unlock Abdullah the Butcher. You have to win the Royal Rumble in the career mode to win Andre the Giant, which was, in my opinion, the most difficult wrestler to unlock. Or you have to use a combination of these three characters to unlock the Great Muta, stuff like that. Very challenging game. The career mode in this game is really good. The wrestler editor mode is also really good as well. Another thing I like about this game is that some of the All Japan characters have their own custom music, and the music in this game, the quality of the sound is really good. But the other characters from like the other companies also have like generic music. The entrances I think are pretty cool, and unlike WrestleMania 2000 where it has like the different pay-per-view settings, this one actually you can actually fight in different famous arenas around Japan, like, you know, Tokyo Dome, Kawasaki Stadium, Bakugan, or I don't know the name of the building, but some famous buildings in Japan, like wrestling buildings, stuff like that. But if you can find this game for anywhere from 20 to 30, I would highly recommend picking it up. If you can find it for less, I would snatch it up really quick. So this is an amazing wrestling game. But if you're having some issues with this game, there's a lot of helpful translations online that can help you change the name of the characters into English, and that can help you kind of get your way started in the game. So that's all the games I can recommend for you guys. Hopefully you guys can pick these up pretty easily. Hopefully it's not too expensive, but I just wanted to make this video because I've been having a lot of questions, especially Neo Geo games, so hopefully this will help you out and you can get some awesome Neo Geo games for the PS2, Xbox, and Wii, and some other games that you can check out as well. So until then, this is your friendly Cuban gamer, Crazy Cubano. Hope you guys like what you saw, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.